Welcome in Q4, the most relevant quarter for the majority of brands who are running pay-per-click advertisement. And you might wonder, if I start now, how I can scale up with native advertising platforms like Taboola and Outbrain. This is something we will clarify in this video. Hi everyone, my name is Marcel Sattler. I'm the founder of nativeadvertising.net. And I founded not just a platform to learn native advertising, but also one of the largest native advertising agencies out there. And I run native ads for more than a decade. And believe me, this is like my 12th or so, like my 12th Black Friday this year. So I'm pretty aware like what's doable and what's impossible when it comes to scalability. And native is a scaling channel, so it's everything about scaling, but scaling works a bit differently with every platform. Sometimes you see maybe some old videos where you just say, where guys are just saying you or telling you, hey, if you want to scale native, just add a zero and everything runs smooth. It was like this a couple of years ago. It's not anymore. So nowadays you need to have a clear strategy and a clear framework that your native advertising scaling also actually works, because at the end, what's the result? You try something you want to scale and the result is you just lose a ton of money, and that's definitely not worth it. And this video here should help you to have a better overview of what you can do when it comes to scalability and actually how you can scale up your campaigns. But now let's jump on the screen. When it comes to scaling, we need to differentiate between Taboola and Outbrain. Generally speaking, Taboola is a bit easier to scale than Outbrain, because let me start with the a bit more difficult scaling, which is on Outbrain. So on Outbrain, let's say you have, let me just make this here a bit bigger for us. So let's say on Outbrain you have two campaigns, campaign 1 and campaign 2. And let's say campaign 2 is doing a pretty good job and now you want to scale the campaign 2. Then let's say here we have a budget from to 50 per day, and let's say, whoa, everything is pretty great and you want to scale it now to 800 or 1K per day. That the idea would be, okay, maybe just go up to 500 or just write in 1K. No. This will not going to work. So what you need to do instead is you need to duplicate this campaign, create a campaign 2.1 with, for example, $1,000 per day. Unfortunately, Outbrain is very sensitive with doing budget changes on the fly in an active campaign. And you always need to duplicate it. So our accounts, they're a mess, because we always need to duplicate campaigns, and we have 2.58 at one moment with, I don't know, let's say 38K per day. So this is how it works on Outbrain. That's the one thing when it comes to scaling. So the scaling works actually with duplication of a campaign. Unfortunately, not every campaign runs in smoothly. So there is a chance actually that if you duplicate this campaign, so it's not always a very smooth process. This is what I want to say. If you duplicate this campaign here, it might be that this campaign sucks and you need to turn it off after 2 or 3 days. So after you spend $3,000, it might be necessary to turn it off and to duplicate this campaign again afterwards to a new campaign, which is maybe not 1K, but let's say 2.2, but let's say 750 USD. And maybe this one will work, but you always need to keep in mind that you also need to give the campaign some space to breathe in order to see the results. And this is the struggle already in the beginning, because whenever you scale a campaign, let's say with $1,000 here, and you need to wait like 3 to 4 days to see some results. It's pretty expensive though, because you spend like 3 or 4K until you see the first kind of results, which is already the first kind of growth pain when you want to scale. Therefore, my recommendation is always to scale like with a structure, with a framework. And yeah, this is just a very, very top of the iceberg, just a peak of the iceberg, which I explain here. We have, just for Outbrain, a document internally which has more than 22 pages to scale a campaign. So it's very much deeper technical stuff here, which would be explode now to explain it here. But long story short, always keep in mind, this is the rule of thumb here for Outbrain, which I can give you today in this video here. Always duplicate a campaign and never try to shift the budget from low to high, high to low in an Outbrain campaign. This will mess up your whole account over the long run. And at one moment, if you do this multiple times, at one moment you will see nothing works anymore in this account. Next thing, Taboola. Taboola is a bit easier to scale. Let's just do something here. So Taboola is a bit easier to scale. Let's say you start with around 300 USD per day with one in one campaign. By the way, fun fact here, just because I made no little typo back then, you know, like let's say 6-7 years ago, it was like this. You had the campaign 1, you saw, whoa, this one is crashing. You basically just logged in the ads manager, you added a 0, and it went super smooth. It continued super smooth. Unfortunately, these times are over. So now we need to make a bit more structure here. So yeah, you have campaign 1 and you see, whoa, doing a great job. You want to increase the budget. Then you can do this on the fly. So you can increase the budget without any problem. So let me see how I can make this in a way which makes sense. So you can increase the budget, but keep in mind, you cannot shift it too crazy, and you always need to keep in mind how old is the account. So you can, for example, what you should avoid is like to scale it from 300 to 3K. This is something you avoid. So to 10x is something you definitely should avoid, but to increase it from 300 to 3, for example, 50, or maybe also to 400, it's definitely okay, and you can do this on the fly. Again, wait like 2 days or so and increase it to 500. And let me just duplicate my wonderful arrow here. So this is something you can do, like you can change the budget already, or you can change the budget actually in an active campaign, but you should avoid to scale too quickly. So this is a very normal process which you can do like within 1 week or 10 days, like from 300 to 750. This is something doable, but again, it's not doable from 300 to, let's say, 2K or whatever. So this is something you should keep in mind. Another very interesting thing is when it comes to scaling, you always have like 2 things which are learning actually. One thing is the account and the other thing is the campaign. So they're going hand in hand with each other. What I mean by that is, it's a difference if the account is like 10 years old and has tons of data, or if it's a very new account which is just started like 2 weeks ago. So whenever you have a old account with a lot of data points inside, of course it's easier to scale than when you have a very fresh account. So also with Taboola, for example, if you have a used account, a very old account, which is familiar with your campaigns and everything, then you can scale faster. Then you don't need to do this like this structure. Then you can also just change the budget from 300 to 600 on these lower budgets. So this is not a problem at all. But again, if it's a very new account from scratch, you should not do that. Another thing is, if you want to scale now faster, if you want to see big numbers, I mean, we're in Q4, you know, now it's everything about scaling. Black Friday is upcoming, Cyber Monday is upcoming. So if you start with $300 per day, it can be a bit hard. So what I can recommend you here is afterwards just to duplicate also the campaign, make a campaign 1.1 and scale it up, for example, to start with a bigger budget. Keep in mind, you should not start with like 3K or so straight away, but just start with 750, for example, or 800 USD. And then if you see after like 2 or 3 days, it works pretty well, you can increase it to 1 grand. You can increase it to 1-250. So you can actually start with bigger steps. When you start with a higher budget, you can increase bigger steps, but keep in mind, you should not increase it like too crazy. So don't go like 50%, 100%. Try to keep it around like 30% if it comes to scale. So yeah, this is very important to keep in mind. And again, there is an account learning and a campaign learning. Therefore, in the majority of cases, I recommend you if the campaign is doing well. So there are like 2 options. Option 1 is, and option 2, oh my God, my drawing is horrible. I'm sorry for that. Option 1 is campaign is doing well. And option 2 is campaign sucks. So if the campaign is doing well, what you should do is you should duplicate it. Duplicate a campaign, because as mentioned here, the campaign has a learning, and if the campaign is doing a great job, then just duplicate it, because the learning will still be part of the duplicated campaign. So all the learning phases, all the creatives and everything, all the data points will be duplicated too. However, can be also the other direction, that the campaign sucks and you need to kind of refresh everything, start new, start over, whatever. Then, very important, create a new campaign. Don't duplicate it, please. Because you anyway have an account learning, so you don't need the campaign learning. It's better to start fresh, start without the manual blocks, the manual publishers which you might block on the campaign levels. Just start fresh. It's way, way better here. Yeah, this is how you scale with Outbrain and Taboola right now in Q4 and in 2025. By the way, if you want to scale your native ads right now, and even if you don't have an account yet and you just think native ads might be relevant for you, just go nativeadvertising.net, fill out a quick questionnaire there, and get in touch with our team, because maybe it's still a good chance right now to start your native ad campaigns in 2025 in order to scale in this Q4 still and crush native. So feel free to go to nativeadvertising.net and figure out if native is a good fit for you.